Tomorrow, President Trump will address a joint session of Congress as well as the American people. Stephen Roberts, ABC News political analyst, is with us to give us a little primer. Good morning, Stephen Roberts.
Hey, good morning, McGraw.
So Donald Trump didn't take the bait last night on the Oscars. He didn't tweet about anything or pick on anybody.
There's a first, right? Look, one of the things about tomorrow night, I think what you're going to see is Donald Trump 1.0. We've been predicting new Trumps for a long time, and it's never happened. And I think you're going to see the same Donald Trump. He's going to be very combative. He's going to be very self-congratulatory, as he was in that clip you just played. And there's going to be a noticeable absence of any olive branches beyond his core constituency. He did not do that in the inaugural address. I don't think he's going to do it tomorrow night. Speech is going to be written by the same people. You've got to say that Donald Trump continues to appeal to a hardcore base of support that is very enthusiastic, still very much behind him, but they're not a majority of the American people. A Gallup poll this morning has Trump's favorable rating at 41%. NBC Wall Street Journal has it at 44%. But so far, he's been able to just appeal to that core group of support, but he hasn't reached beyond it. He doesn't seem to be interested in reaching beyond it.
So when President Obama was giving a joint session of Congress, he was heckled, and a lot of criticism for that. What do the Democrats do tomorrow? Do they show up? Do they turn their back? Do they heckle? What's the opposition party do?
I don't know what they're going to do. I do think that you have a very clear crystallization of opinion on the Democratic side, that there's only one appropriate response to Donald Trump, and that's total resistance. There is no inclination that I can see to work with Trump on anything significant. They're really taking their cue from the Republicans, who took that attitude toward Barack Obama. You never had a single Republican vote, to take one example, for Obamacare. Republicans for an entire year stalled Barack Obama's last appointment to the Supreme Court, Judge Merrick Garland. And Democrats look at that strategy and say, hey, it worked for them. And we're going to do the same thing. Now, there might be an occasional Democrat, particularly a Democratic senator from a red state who might be up for re-election, who might split off on a given issue or two. But by and large, I think you're going to see massive Democratic resistance. Now, whether they jeer, whether they sit in silence, whether they turn their backs, whether they walk out, whether they don't show up at all, I don't know how it's going to show itself, but I do know that that core of resistance is there.
Stephen Roberts, I have, as you do, talked to people who follow the news, consume the news, regular people who have jobs and lives and aren't following every sentence the way we are. And I hear from them, it's sensory overload. They're like, just stop. I can't go on anymore. We have to find some type of way to move on and not be at DEFCON 5 every time something happens from the White House.
I have one word for those people, and that word is baseball. I mean, it couldn't come at a better time, right, to have something to look forward to that's not involved in politics. And look, I share some of that, too, and everybody I know in Washington shares some of that exhaustion. Normally you have a period of a kind of a honeymoon period, and people feel good about the new president. There's a sense of optimism, a sense of hope. None of that has happened with the new president. From the first moment, there's been this sense of tension, this sense of combat, this sense of hostility on both sides.
Yeah.
And there's been no relief at all. So I think your reporting is accurate, but I think it actually extends to virtually anybody in Washington who is forced to follow this. And there's no relief in sight, because you're going to get into these legislative fights. The fact is that Trump is such an unusual figure, because he excites such tremendous loyalty on the part of a core group of supporters. But for every action in politics, there's always a reaction. And the resentment of Donald Trump and the fear of Donald Trump and the alarm over Donald Trump is so profound on the part of his opponents both sides are gripped with outsized emotions.
Yeah.
There's no middle ground here.
Stephen Roberts, ABC News political analyst. Have a good week. Thanks.
Okay, my friend.
7:57 KTRS.